Hello there, and welcome to the UPLC-II Webpage Basics training video. This video will cover how to navigate the UPLC-II Webpage interface. Future videos will go into greater detail on the various sections. Today, we will be covering the following topics: logging into an UPLC or UPLC-II, creating user accounts, logging out and back into your newly created account, and finally, navigating the web page. At the end of this video, we will provide phone and email contact information if you have any further questions. Logging into a UPLC or UPLC-II. First, the UPLC. Depending on the model of UPLC you're logging into, you must first connect via RS-232, USB, or Ethernet. The RS-232 9-pin or USB port are located in the front door in this location. On some later UPLC, there may be an Ethernet RJ45 located here. This port is not active. Next, the UPLC-II. The UPLC-II has a front panel RS-232 9-pin serial port connector located here and an RJ45 Ethernet port. If the Ethernet option is installed, this RJ45 Ethernet port may be used. For both the UPLC and UPLC-II, if the Ethernet option is installed, the rear panel Ethernet ports are located here. The Ethernet card can be purchased with either two RJ45, one RJ45 and fiber optic, or two fiber optic ports. If available, you may use either RJ45 port. If Ethernet is installed, we highly recommend using that as it is 100 times faster than either RS-232 or USB. This presentation will show logging in via a network, but once RS-232, USB, or a direct Ethernet connection is made, the login process is the same. There will be training videos available on how to set up each of these connections. For the remainder of this video, I will say UPLC, but this will encompass both UPLC and UPLC-II unless noted. Now that you have physically connected to your UPLC, open an Internet Explorer window and type in the IP address of the UPLC you are trying to access. In this case, 10.14.3.124. Hit return. This brings up a pop-up window which asks you for a username and password. If this is a brand new unit, the default username is administrator and the default password is Pulsar, all lowercase, P-U-L-S-A-R. Now press OK. This brings up the main page of the UPLC website. From here, as administrator, all you can really do other than view the settings is to go down to admin. Here's where you can show users. In this case, there are two users, administrator and guest. To create a new user account, press the Add User button. Put in the username. In this case, we are going to use training. The password may be 1 to 8 digits long, upper, lowercase, or special characters. I am just going to use 1, 2, 3, 4. You must re-enter the password again. If the passwords do not match, you will get an error when you press the Add User button below. I will put in 2, 3, 4, 5. Try to add user. As you can see, you get a sorry, passwords don't match. Please re-enter the passwords. Press OK. Retype in the password 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The account description is just an optional text field associated with the user account. Now you must select the privileges for this account. Guest privileges allow for viewing settings, viewing and saving SOE logs, or viewing admin information, but cannot change anything. User privileges allow for viewing and updating settings, RF calibration, viewing and saving SOE logs, checkback and trip testing, viewing admin information, and performing firmware updates, but they cannot add or delete any user accounts. Administrator privileges allow for viewing settings, viewing and saving SOE logs, viewing editing user accounts, and performing firmware updates. Management privileges provide a user management interface designed for automated IT access. More information can be found in Appendix D of the system manual. Super user privileges combine the user and administrator access. To create a super user, select both the user and admin. Once I select these two, I will press the Add User. Now we have a training username and the role is super user. I am still logged on as the administrator, so to access the training account, I would have to log off. Up at the top left, there is a log off button. Press it. This brings up a window which alerts you that any changes that you've made will not be saved unless you have submitted them. We are going to press OK. This will close out the Internet Explorer window. If you have another browser tab open in the browser section, this must be closed as well. Otherwise, the browser session will keep you logged in, and if you type in the IP address, it will immediately take you back to the connected unit, as you can see here. So log off, close the window. Now we are going to learn how to navigate the UPLC webpage. Now we are going to log on just like we did before, entering the IP address of the unit we wish to access, this time using the username training and password 1234. That brings us to the UPLC homepage. Now we are going to go over the basics in navigating the web page. At the top we have the date, whether or not the UPLC has been synced with iRig, in this case not synced. Below that are two lines of user-defined text describing the unit. On the top left we have the UPLC ID, which is the IP address of the unit. Below that is the mode that we are currently in this case on-off directional comparison. In the middle we have the general status panel, which is divided into three sections. Settings shows the basic settings of the UPLC: channel type, function, transmit receive frequencies, bandwidth, transmit power, calibrated receive sensitivity, whether the transmitter and receiver have been enabled, and finally the fade alarm and margin settings. Status shows the current state of the UPLC. In this case, transmit power is -40 dBm and unkeyed. The receive level is -40 dB and the receive state is off. The reflected power is unavailable because we are not transmitting, and the measured fade margin is -40 dB since we are not receiving. If you would like to see these measurement values in watts, volts, pressing this button will change the transmit power to watts and the receive level to millivolts. Pressing it again will go back to dB. The alarms indicate the health of the UPLC. Green means healthy, so in this case there are no general alarms. Power amp is good, power supply is good, and the last checkback major and minor test was successful. Gray means that the module is not present, so in this case we do not have a redundant power amp or power supply. If an alarm condition occurs, then the green circle will change to a red triangle. I pulled the power amp from the UPLC chassis. Now you see that both the general alarm and power amp main have red triangles. I now reinserted the power amp and the red triangles are now replaced with green circles. You may have also noticed about every 12 seconds the screen flickers. That is the standard refresh rate of the UPLC webpage. On the left we have the main menu. Home brings us back to the general status panel. Pressing the settings button shows you the current settings of the unit. You will notice that items in blue are for reference and indicate either the current hardware jumper setting of the UPLC or the current RF sensitivity setting based on your last RF calibration. Hardware jumper states are monitored by the web page so that you do not have to pull out a board to see the jumper settings. So on this page, the receive sensitivity setting has been calibrated to 113.8 millivolts, and the transmit impedance and the RF coax connection have been set to 2-wire and 50 ohm impedance. Pressing the calibrate button brings you to the calibration page. This is where you can calibrate the transmitter and the receiver to the distant and local transmitter. Pressing the SOE log button takes you to the stored sequence of events for this UPLC. These are ordered from latest to earliest. As you can see here, it shows where we logged on as an administrator, created the training account, logged off as an administrator, logged back on as a training account, and initiated the general alarm by pulling the power amp and restoring the power amp and the general alarm being reset. The buttons below allow for navigation, and the menus at the top allow for filtering, searching, and saving SOEs. If your unit has testing facility options, pressing the checkback button will allow you to review and initiate checkback tests. It shows the history of previous tests. If this was in an FSK configuration, this would be a trip instead of a checkback test. And finally, the admin button, which we've been to before. Again, this shows current users. One thing of note is that the user that has the little degree sign is the user that is signed in. Clicking the firmware tab provides the firmware version, in this case 406. This is the number that we need to know when you're calling in with an issue. The DSP and the front panel versions are not required as they are keyed off the 406. This is also where, if you were updating your firmware, you would browse for that file and update your code by pressing this button. Clicking the Protocol tab takes you to the Configuration Manager for IEC 61850 or DMP. If you have purchased one of these protocols, this is where you would load, edit, and save settings for these options. The Catalog Number tab is where you can review the UPLC system configuration. the MAC address for the unit, the catalog number, and the hardware configurations the catalog number represents. In this case, single transceiver, 110, 125, 250 volt, no redundant power supply, standard trip duty, etc. This tab is also where you would update a feature that requires a catalog number change. So if you were to add Ethernet to a unit that did not have Ethernet before, you would need to purchase and install the physical Ethernet board and then enter the provided soft key here, and then press the submit. To quickly review, the main menu buttons take you to Home, Settings, Calibrate, SOE Log, Check Back if installed, and Admin. Each of these will be covered in greater detail in future training videos. That is it for this training session. I hope you found this session informative. If you have any questions regarding UPLC or UPLC-II, please contact us at the following phone numbers or email. The sales email may be used to contact Ametek for quotes or ordering new equipment. The repair email may be used to contact Ametek for repair of existing equipment. And the applications email may be used to contact Ametek concerning product setup or system applications. You may also go to our website for further information. This link may be found in the video description below.